everyone. I am here to wish everyone a happy new year, and I thought that I would start this new year by sort of re-examining my beginnings in junk journaling. I don't have any, I have a lot of new journals under construction, but I don't have anything finished yet, and probably won't for a few weeks. And I did really love the idea of participating in Junk Journal January, but I'm really physically incapable of doing it because I can't do something every single day due to the demands of my day job. So, but the one prompt that really grabbed me was the prompt from today, Saturday, memory. I love that prompt. And so I thought I would get out the two journals of all the journals that I've made that I have kept. I have about 5 journals that I've kept, but these are my 2 journals that I consider my favorite personal journals, and I thought I would just show them to you. I thought I'd begin with, I'm going to switch these out. This is the very first she journal I ever made, and I love it so much. I mean, it's very primitive in nature compared to the ones I make now. It didn't have a case made for it. It's just a little journal, but it's my favorite one, and I've always kept it. So I thought I'd just open it up and show it to you. I made it, the cover is just a tag, just a regular tag that I covered with, this is some Tim Holtz tissue collaging paper, and I think it's from the memorandum kit. And this is some old paper that I had from Monahan Papers. I bought a little stack of these lovely little papers. I still have some. I've been hoarding them for 10 years. But this is the very first she journal I ever made. And in some respects, it's my favorite. And I often think I need to try to revisit it every time I make one to see what I did. And I love it. It says, Jane knows, the girl in pink. You were just the girl in pink and long remembered. Oh, the secret of all that passion and confusion, what was most important for us. Here's a little pocket with some tucks. I saw your movie, the index of the book, but still I want to see you. I want all of you. This is the cue. We fall silent. No, she whispered. Somehow. That was it. Curls at the nape, a silk dress, and in the sweetest voice, you can't even remember it. If you love, quirky and memorable, your turn now. My turn for what? And that's it. And I love the words in this book. Of all the ones I've ever made, these are my favorite. They're all cut from little novels, from different novels. They're put on literal scraps, very small scraps of paper, old ledger. And I had such a small collection of these things when I made this. literally, I just had tiny bits. This is, you know, pattern paper, a little bit of graph paper that I had. This is taken from Poetry Magazine. I used to have a subscription to Poetry Magazine, and I did use a lot of scraps from that magazine. This is one of my favorite things I've ever cut out and put together. I saw your movie, the index of the book, but still, I want to see you. I want all of you. And this was a forever stamp that came to my work, and it was the first time I'd ever seen this forever stamp of the robin, or it's a swallow actually, and I just loved it so much, and I just tore it off and put it in this journal. I made this little tuck spot. I used just regular lined notebook paper, because that's basically, I didn't have a lot of different papers. This is a bag, part of a bag that I received from somebody. This is my favorite. I had very little antique lace, just a little bit. And this was a tiny piece of lace that I had gotten a little roll of it from an antique store here where I live in Greensboro called Design Archives, which I've always thought was the most brilliant name of a store, Design Archives. I just love that. It's still downtown. I need to go visit it. And so this was my very, very first she journal, and it's the one I keep, you know, sort of hidden away in my room, and it's getting a little beat up. The papers are getting a little torn. I should probably repair that with some glue, but I kind of like it. So, and then one of my very first full-fledged junk journals is this one. And this is one of the first pictures I ever bought off eBay. And I couldn't bear to part with her. And this right here is cut from, I scanned it, but it is cut from a letter written to my great-great-great-grandmother in 1843. And it began, "Dearest Sarah." And so I named the journal Dearest. And what's really special about this journal, and the reason I love the prompt for Junk Journal January on Saturday, memory, is this book is literally a memory book. This cover comes from the library of the college I went to, the James Millikan University Library. They were going through old books in the library, and this one was really beat up and destroyed and falling apart, and you could just come in and grab books that were falling apart, and they would let you have them. And I just loved this one, and so I took it. It was a play. I think it was a part of a play. And back then, when I was making this junk journal I think I did make it over 10 years ago, I did something that my sweet friend Kate of Pixie Kate Designs did in her initial Junk Journal January piece, where she talked about quotes. This journal is full of some of my favorite quotes, and they're quotes that I really can't put into any of my other junk journals because they may be under copyright, so I just have them in my journal. I love this one. "The inner life is, to her, necessary, the kind of melody you hear someone humming under her breath as she goes about her day." I just love that. That is so true. It's just about me. It's just so true. And I used Tim Holtz papers because I had just discovered the memorandum paper pad, and I was insanely crazy over it. Here's another quote. Actually, this is just words that I cut out from a book. "Obstreperous beauty, the shaft of her glance." And I cut out this this bit of bleeding heart from a digital kit that I ordered from Etsy. It was one of the first ones I ever ordered. And here's a quote: "I'm going to make everything around me beautiful, and that will be my life." And that sort of became my motto. And I filled this little envelope made of parchment paper with a cutout from Poetry Magazine. I just made this book. It's all about the things that I love, and so I've always kept it. I couldn't even begin to think of selling it. I remember making this butterfly envelope from the one of the other Tim Holtz paper patterns, the one about with all the birds in the gardens. I can't remember the name of it, but I love it. And I filled it with one of my favorite poems, The Lady of Shalott, which I made so that I could put the whole poem into the pocket. I just loved filling this book up with all sorts of things. One thing I used to do on my journals all the time, and I'm going to return to it. This has been sort of a trip down memory lane and sort of a get back to my basics kind of a weekend. After Christmas, I've been going through things. I've been cleaning up my closet slowly, very slowly. And I used to make these little tag clusters, and I would put an eyelid in the side of the page. And my pages were always very sturdy. These pages are made like of Tim Holtz paper applied to thin cardstock. And then I would make these tag clusters, which I just really love. And I'm going to go back to that. And then here is a vintage library checkout card. And I love the title. The author was Paul Zindel, and the name of the book was Let Me Hear You Whisper. And I just collaged. This is a fussy cut. I believe it is from the Graphics Fairy. It's a fussy cut, and I just collaged it on there. It was one of the very first times I'd ever done that. I was very into making these sort of slides out of the Tim Holtz papers. And, you know, back then this is just washi tape and glue. My sewing machine was buried somewhere in my house, so I didn't sew many things back then, or I didn't sew anything. I glued everything. And I put these words together. I love these words. I stand here, and I think of you there where you stood last summer. I love that. And I put it's built up on some very delicate handmade paper, mulberry paper. And this is part of the original book that I told you the book cover was from. This was part of the inside of that book. And I used to love to make these things that I used to attach, because as you see, it's a ring binder journal, so it wasn't bound. This was before I was binding books, when I was just making ring binder journals. And I call these floating tags, and sort of like a charm tag. And I used to love to make these half pages. And this is very vintage ribbon, very, very old vintage ribbon, and tissue paper. And it's just sort of like a little divider. I used to love to make these floating pockets. There's something in here, I'm sure, because I filled it up with stuff. And this is a fussy cut flower. And I put words on the back of it. This is washi tape, Tim Holtz washi tape. You can't get it anymore. Crabapple blossoms blown, fall and flutter down. And here's another quote I love. When I die, mix my ashes with ink and write of how I loved him. I love, love, love that quote. And it goes in this little teeny pocket. And then here's a bigger pocket. This was my favorite in that group of Tim Holtz papers. I just love this paper with these little roses on top, and I hoarded it. I was a bad hoarder of this piece of paper because I loved it so much. These are journal cards that I designed really long time ago to go in my journals, and you know, I haven't used them in a while, and I need to dig them out and start putting them back in my journals again. I love the images that I use to make these journal cards. And here's another one of the little slides that I made, and this is a little envelope I made out of old ledger paper. I bought about 10 pieces of old ledger paper. Oh, and I love this poem. I saw a flock of birds flying north today, and if they can move on after summer, so can I. And this is anonymous. I don't know who wrote that. I love that little poem. And here's another one of my parchment. I took my kitchen parchment from my kitchen and I started making envelopes. And here's another. And I wrote on it, this page is the best part of a poem written by J.D. McClatchy. It is the part that made sense. It is the one fragment that felt universal. And so, you know, I haven't put anything in this journal in a couple of years, but for a couple of years, I was always sort of finding little bits and pieces of quotes and putting them in there. And I'm sort of with Kate. I like the idea of typing up things or cutting out already printed things or forming quotes onto the page rather than writing them out in longhand. Even though I have okay handwriting, I just prefer the typing, the printing. This is one of my favorite parts of one of the Tim Holtz papers. This is actually embedded in one of the papers, and I just decided to cut it out. It was another thing I hoarded. I was constantly getting that piece of paper and cutting that out. Here is something I made from a graphics fairy image. Serendipity, noun, finding something good without looking for it. I love that quote. And here's some more quotes. Oh, little heart, keep your smile youthful and never let go of love when the wind calls your name. I love that. I just put and of course, here's one of my favorite graphics fairy pieces of ephemera. I've declared that on several videos. But it's just, I just think that this is my most personal journal. And here is a quote from Randy Muscaro. She loved him with a messy heart. He hugged her with fragile bones. She touched him with scarred hands. He kissed her with bruised lips. They whispered all of their flaws and inhaled the storm together. I just love that. I mean, so I put it into my journal along with another slide. Ought I not? I loved making slides. I need to get back to doing that. I used to make slides all the time. And here's another journaling card that I made with a little medieval lady and some dandelions and little envelope, a little money envelope. Here's an envelope I made from a whole piece of Tim Holtz paper with more of my journaling cards. I love this print. I actually bought the actual print so that I could copy it. I love that. Love that piece so much. Let's stick it back together. And here's more slides. You can see I was devoted to slides 10 years ago. And I used to cut out butterflies and put them in there, and I would back them with words so that they wouldn't be just a white back. And the other thing I did is I bought these giant paper clips. I still have them. I bought a ton. I think I bought 200 or something. And I used to just use them in my journals all the time, stick them in there. And here's a little pocket that's full of all kinds of things. A little picture that came from something. I got a journal once that was a cloth journal. It was really pretty, but it was hot glued and a whole bunch of it fell apart. The glue dried and it just started falling apart. There's a little tag I love and a couple little pieces of ephemera. And here's some more. Oh, this is my favorite poem of all time, Louise Glow. I just love that poem. And then once again, I made it one of my kitchen parchment envelopes. Another little teeny envelope here with something, probably a slide. Yep, a slide. A little slide. Oh, I just love those. I'm going to make more slides. See, this is why I'm doing this. Get back to my roots. That's why I'm doing this. Well, it won't go back in there, so I'm going to just put it right here. This is a poem about my searches for the final answer, my disappointments and discoveries. I used to make these too all the time. These things I used to cut with one of my punches and add with a round inch punch or inch and a half punch, and then make these little flags. I'm gonna get back to flags too. I miss making flags. And another journaling card, little Jane Eyre person. And let's see what's going on here. There we go. Oh, and here's a birthday card my daughter gave me that I saved in here. And another old envelope with another poem, another favorite poem, The Highwayman. I love this poem too. And another one of these cards that I collaged. I love these, and I've still got, I hoarded these. I have them somewhere in an envelope. This is Henry VI Part 2, and I just love that. She would only eat one thing over and over again. That's me, Lay's potato chips. Oh, that's a good quote, very good quote. And then here is the inside title page of my book, The Man of Destiny and How He Lied to Her Husband. And some more poems out of the poetry magazine that I cut out. And oh, Claudine Helmuth is one of my most, I just really respect her. She's a beautiful collage artist. And I used to love, always wanted to buy one of her original collages. And then blank papers. And at the very, very back, a little envelope. I don't know what's in it. I'll save that for later. But I just thought I'd share, since the prompt for Junk Journal January on Saturday is memory. I thought I would share my very personal, lovely little journal, that the one I'll never sell, and encourage everybody to sort of go back and re-explore how you started in this lovely fun craft, and maybe readopt some of your original ideas. I think I've got a whole box of these ring binders, and I think I may make a few of these just to sort of re-embrace the way I used to do things. So Happy New Year, everybody. I've got a few things coming up. I've got my Sam Poole project coming up in early February, and I've got my last Graphics Fairy journal, which is a departure from what I usually make, very, very different from what I usually make. And so I'm excited about those two things. And I'm hoping that this is a year when I will be able to make a lot more pretty journals, fairies, and just continue doing what I love. And so Happy New Year, everyone.